Hello and welcome back to the channel. And if you're new, welcome to the channel. The rainy season has kind of just begun because I stay somewhere in the middle of Western Ghats, and sometimes it rains for months together. And when I say months together, it's like 4-5 months. And as some of my friends have suggested, it rains for 6 months here. It does not really, but it feels like it feels long. It feels like very long. The doom and gloom, and it's like just crazy. And it's the perfect time for you to be getting a cup of coffee, getting cozied up in the bed and start reading. Like, what else can you do in the rainy season, right? You cannot be going outside all the time. You're going to get wet. The clothes are going to get wet and messy, and everything is just like messy and dirty. So the best thing to do in the rainy season is just like get cozied up in the bed and read something which it's just an amazing feeling. Like, the entire nature, right, creates this ambience for a perfect setting for you to be reading. So I have a couple of suggestions for you to be reading in the rainy season. Now, this is just a suggestion. I don't know. I will not say you must read these books, but these are pretty good books that I would love to reread. But some of them I'm not going to. But I wish I had never read them. Reread them, but like without having the knowledge of the content inside of it. Right? I wish to forget and read it again. So my first suggestion is one more thing, right? It's like a disclaimer. These are all going to be like doom gloom sorts of books. These are not going to be happy kind of stuff. And make you want to hold a pillow and it's not going to be horrifying kind of stuff, but maybe a little bit horrifying. So the first book is called The Discomfort of Evening. Now, I cannot actually pronounce the name of the author. She's Dutch, and I could try. Marike Lucas Rijneveld. I could be absolutely wrong about that. Anyway, this is a translation, right? It was written in Dutch and it's been translated into English, and I do not know how this is not already a classic. Like, this should be hella popular, right? Like something like Normal People. So I think this is going to be a classic in the next 20 years. So you might as well say I read it before it was like really bloody popular. So it's this story about this small girl, but it's not like children kind of reading kind of book. It is very adult. It has themes of very serious contents, right? You do not want children to be reading this, though it is about children. The next one is, whenever I think about rainy season and the doom and gloom, you usually get into this gothic kind of feeling. You want to read gothic books, and the usual name that comes up in my head is Charlotte Bronte, or Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights. And this is one of the recommendation which is not known so much. It kind of gets under the carpet. Nobody really gives much thought about it, and it was never published in Charlotte Bronte's life, I guess, but she loved this book thoroughly, and it's called The Professor. The Professor is like a prequel, kind of has the same setting as Villette, but this deals with the man. The man is the main protagonist, right? So the sexes have been kind of reversed in Villette, right? This is the first book that she wrote, by the way. So if you are really into Charlotte Bronte and if you've read Jane Eyre and loved it, you will love this, right? And it's not the classic Charlotte Bronte. You can tell she's just developing into becoming this great writer. But I think this is one of those serious books that I think you should read, and especially if you're into Charlotte Bronte. It's kind of crazy that I never knew about this book, and I just I was just reading about Charlotte Bronte, and they're The Professor. People know about Villette and Jane Eyre, Shirley, but people kind of forget about The Professor. So I wanted to make a point that someone saying that you should be reading The Professor. It's really a good book. I don't know why people kind of dislike it, and there are reviews saying that it's kind of an incomplete book, which makes sense because Villette is the entire book. So my next recommendation is, of course, Villette, right? Charlotte Bronte Villette. And I think like this deals with so many other things than the professor does. And of course you know the sex has been changed here. It's like kind of reversed. It's the main protagonist is a woman. And there are a lot of like, back and forth like of her own life and her experiences. She was also a teacher for some point of time. And then a lot of references have been taken from her own life, so it is kind of like semi-autobiographical. Like I'm making like bare assumption and like presumption at this point, but I think this is one of the brilliant reads. Like if you like the professor, you should definitely read Villette, because but also like this is like a bit of hard read because it has a lot of French dialogues. So if you're into French, this is a good book to get into. Of course, some things, like if you just know like beginner's French like I do, it will be a bit easier for you to understand what they're saying, but at some places it will get into this intermediate level of French where it kind of gets hard about what they're saying, so you have to go and translate those sentences and know what they're talking about. This is a heavier book than The Professor, right? So keep that in mind before getting into this. I also have the same, Villette, right? I read from this originally and then I bought this because I just loved Villette so much. Like I was like, if I'm going to read it, I'm not reading. By the way, I love this. I love Bantam Collection, but I just wanted a new book so I could reread. I've not reread it yet, which I will hopefully by next year. But I really love this book. The next one is kind of out of the place from the rest of them. It is called Sound and Fury by William Faulkner. Like it's kind of faded, the cover has faded, so it's not very visible. William Faulkner, especially the Sound and Fury, it is kind of confusing. Like you don't know who is saying what sometimes. You don't know like what the place is. Constantly changes time, right? Like that jumping space and time all the time, right? It kind of gets confusing. But if you really push through this book, I think this is one of the most brilliant reads, right? And oh my god, like the misery is like real in this one. Like you can feel it, and like it's just crazy like how much amount of confusion he himself might have gone through while writing this book, and still having been able to do this. It is crazy. And William Faulkner is a crazy type of guy. So if you are into something like confusing stuff, like you don't know what's going on, I mean for the most part you don't know what really is going on. You have unreliable narrators, right? Everything changes from time and place. We just keep jumping from conversations to conversations, and you don't even know who's saying what. Then you kind of start to figure it out as you read through, right? So I think if you give up on this book, I would suggest you just push it through. Just push it. Go to the end no matter what, even if you do not understand who is saying what is happening where. It does not matter. Just push it through and you will be happy that you pushed through. So that was Sound of the Fury. Now a bit on the drama side. Like I usually don't like a lot of drama kind of stuff, right? I would rather have something a bit of serious topic, something a bit philosophical in nature. And like I love theorizing and like having discourses. But when I read this book, this is called Spring Snow by Yukio Mishima. I think it's a hard-hitting, like, romantic stuff going on in here. If you're into that, like, don't read the modern, love stories. I don't usually do that. So, but this is beautifully written, and it's also it's written in a very modern way. Like it's been translated into like very modern way. So for the modern reader, this is like very easy to get through. And like some books like which might seem a little boring at the beginning, like Villette or The Professor, right? They can seem a bit boring, but this one, it does not do that whatsoever. It's written like in our time kind of stuff. Spring Snow is heartbreaking, right? When I say heartbreaking, like, the two different things, like, heartbreak, and then there is like misery, loathsomeness, like, all of that stuff is different. This is heartbreak, like literal heartbreak, and by the end, I'm sure you will be crying, right? This is that kind of book, and it's like heavy, right? It's good 400 kind of pages stuff, and maybe like lots of drama, lots of like, going back and forth between, two lovers. You will absolutely love this. And this like, which does not have a lot of like serious themes, which Yukio Mishima is usually known to be doing, right? Especially After Banquet was one of the most serious reads, and it deals with like a lot of serious themes. But this one does not do that, like, at least not a lot. It mainly is based upon this, romantic relation between the aristocrats and the bourgeoisie. So it's kind of crazy. I would definitely recommend this if you're into like, love stories kind of stuff, but it's not your everyday love story kind of stuff. Now, recently I was thinking about like, not doing any honorary mentions, or like just saying like, you should have read that too, because like it kind of makes me feel like I'm not giving the book enough time and talking about them like really. So I would not recommend anything else apart from these books at the moment. So that's that. I mean, how many books are these? I actually haven't counted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 books which you can read through and get through this rainy season, this doom and gloom, right? And it's really fun reading doom and gloom in doom and gloom. Everything is set up for that. Like, light a candle maybe, if you're like really into it, and then just like begin reading. It's fun, right? I hope you guys enjoyed the video, right? That's it. I'll get back to watching the rain. It's actually drizzling right now, and I hope it rains like really, pours down. Yeah, that's about it. See you guys in another video.